जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrind ki jai. So, Narsingha Rupa Prabhu asked me to speak about gratitude in Krishna consciousness, especially the gratitude that we have for Srila Prabhupada. So this is the Thanksgiving weekend, a very appropriate topic for the weekend too. So I thought we'll pick a verse from the Gita and then speak about gratitude and Srila Prabhupada a little bit. So if you have your phones, you can go to vedabase.io, Vedabase, vedabase.io. You can click the Bhagavad Gita as it is. This is chapter 3, titled Karma Yoga, and this is text 27. So I'll recite the Sanskrit word for word translation and purport, and we'll discuss a little bit. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word translation. Prakrite, of material nature. Kriyamanani, being done. Gunai, by the modes. Karmani, activities. Sarvashaha, all kinds of. Ahankara vimudha, bewildered by false ego. Atma, the spirit soul. Karta, doer. Aham, I. Iti, thus. Manyate, he thinks. Translation. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Purport. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is the symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature, under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishi Kesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। So Krishna here speaks about a very specific kind of person. This person who he says is bewildered by the influence of false ego. In such a condition, what he does is he thinks he is the doer of everything. And Prabhupada so nicely explains in this purport about two kinds of people actually. Two kinds of people, one in Krishna consciousness and one in material consciousness. Externally, it might look like they're doing the same things when we look at it from the outside. But Prabhupada says there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. And Prabhupada specifically mentions one word for a person who thinks he is the doer of everything. The word he uses is independence. This is what he uses. The person thinks he's independently doing everything. This is kind of the modern American way or the Texan way, right? We are completely independent. We are self-made, so to speak, right? And we bootstrap ourselves with no help whatsoever. And then we can go forward in lives. This is kind of the modern mentality that we have. And therefore we think that we do everything. The result of everything that we are getting is because of our own endeavor and our own hard work, right? But think about it. From the most basic things that we do in life, is it really independent? Say, for example, we all came to the temple. We drove, right? I drove to the temple by myself. But for us to drive, think about how many things had to be set in place before we can actually reach the destination. Although I drove, right? I drove the car. But then somebody had to build the car. Somebody had to lay the roads. Somebody had to extract gas. So many things. If you look at one very simple activity, any simple activity that we think we do it by ourselves, there are actually hundreds and thousands of people who are working behind the scenes to actually set things up. This temple had to be there. This temple had to be built. I mean, practically speaking, so many things have to be arranged for us before we can do what we think we actually do, right? So this is the kind of person that Krishna is speaking here. And the problem with such a mentality, when we think that it is only me, I am actually doing everything, is what? Can anybody say? What is the problem? Is it a problem in the first place? That to think that I am doing everything, is that a problem in the first place? Yeah, with your silence, I say, I consider it as agreement. You all think it's a problem, right? The problem is we don't recognize anything apart from ourselves. We are so self-absorbed. We are so zoomed into what we do that we have no idea what's happening around us. So many things are happening around us to make things possible, but because we are so self-absorbed, we cannot recognize it. And from that position, we really cannot appreciate anything in this world, right? The, the Sanskrit word for great gratitude is kritagnya. It's called kritagnya. Gya means to know. Krita means something that has been done. Kritagnya literally means to know something that has been done, right? But when we are so self-absorbed in ourselves, then there is no way that we can know or remember something that has been done for us, for our close ones, in so many ways like that. It is practically impossible. And we just had a newborn. She's 5 months old. And I can see, practically speaking, they're completely dependent on the parents. She can do nothing absolutely whatsoever. And yet, we are born that way, right? At least for so many years, we need the nurturing of the parents for us to be even alive, leave alone anything else that we might be able to do. And yet, at some point, this flips. This attitude completely flips. And we think, I am doing everything. But in fact, even for the most basic things, when we were children, we were dependent on the parents for eating, for cleaning ourselves. We don't even know words. We just cry, and we're hoping that somebody will actually recognize what we are crying for, and then fix the problem. This is how dependent we are on the environment, and therefore the Shastras say, as soon as we are born, we actually have a lot of debt to repay for. We just cannot say that I can do whatever I want, because we have climbed on the shoulders of so many people for us to do anything that we are able to do. And the Shastra says the 5 debts are 1 to the demigods, or nature, you could say, right? When we drove the car to the program today, if it was a heavy thunderstorm or if we had a hurricane, would we be able to do anything? Right? We think we can do it. But then the nature has to cooperate. The demigods have to cooperate. And behind these forces is a person who we call demigods. So we are indebted to them for everything that they provide us. And just that was one example, but so many things are being provided to us by nature, right? So we have a debt to repay to nature. And then we have a debt to repay for our teachers. Right? It starts with our parents. They teach us how to do the most basic things. To so many teachers that we come across in our lives who teach us all the essential things for us to actually have a good life. Right? So we have a debt to repay for those teachers who actually teach us everything that we know. And of course, we have a great debt to repay to our family, without whom we might not be here in the first place. Right? They're taking care of us in so many different ways. And the society. We might think it's me, my family, my car, my house. But then the society helps us in so many different ways. We are not completely independent or in an island in any way. So we have a great debt to pay for the society also. And the last thing that the Shastras say is that we have to be grateful to our forefathers. It's because of our forefathers that we are here. So there are so many debts that we have to repay. And all these can actually happen. First, we have to recognize that there is actually a debt. Right? If we are so self-absorbed in thinking, I am the doer, it's only me, there is nobody else, then there is no chance for even recognizing these things in the first place. So therefore, Krishna says, this is really not a good place to be. You're completely deluded by false ego, and you think you're so independent that you can do everything, and yet you're dependent on so many things and so many people for everything that we do in our day-to-day lives. And yet, most important of all, we are so grateful to the source of everything, the Supreme Person, Krishna, God Himself, right? Everything that is there is coming from Krishna. The Ishopanishad says, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, that everything in this world belongs to the Supreme Person. And yet, we think we own everything. Right? Prabhupada would often use this, lording it over material nature. We think we are the lord of everything that we survey. Right? especially as human beings, we think we can exploit everything in this in this world for our own benefit. That causes so much damage to our surroundings, to the ecology, in so many different ways. But everything belongs to Krishna. Hmm? The sun, the moon. Krishna in the 10th chapter of the Gita says so many different ways in which we can see him in this world. Right? Krishna says, I am the taste in water. Have you been really, really thirsty in a summer day? And then you take a glass of water. It's the best thing that we can ever have. Right? That taste in that water, Krishna says, is him. The light of the sun and the moon, Krishna says, is him. Everything that we need to sustain is coming from the sun. Right? They say that if there is no sun, the entire world will cease to exist in, I don't know, a matter of minutes. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. Yeah? About that, right? In 8 minutes, everything will cease to exist. And yet we think, I am the doer. Right? I can do everything. Krishna says, I am the light of the moon. And the moon plays a very important role in nourishing all the fruits and vegetables, grains and everything. It nourishes everything that we eat. And yet we think, I am the doer of everything. The sun, the moon, the wind, the soil, everything that we are given, we take it for granted without actually recognizing where it all comes from. Right? And Krishna says, such a person who actually doesn't recognize where everything comes from is a thief and a sinner, he says. This is basically it, right? We go to the supermarket and we just grab whatever we need and come out. What would we call such a person? We'd call such a person a thief, isn't it? Because we're not recognizing that it actually belongs to the supermarket. I have to pay something for me to get what I want. And instead I'll just go and take anything that I want. But this is exactly what all of us are doing in this world, is that we don't recognize where everything is coming from. Everything is coming from Krishna. And yet we don't want Krishna in our lives. And not only that, we completely exploit everything that Krishna has given as if we own everything. This is basically adding salt to injury, they would say. Right? So this is a big problem. And Krishna says the first thing to do, the first basic form of sacrifice or gratitude that we can show is that we at least recognize that we don't own everything. We are actually given all of these things. We didn't bring any of these things when we were born. Therefore, Krishna says, this is the first thing that all of us have to think of, is that we are being given all of this, and therefore we show some gratitude. We thank the person who is giving all of this to us. That's the most basic form. Right? Initially, children don't recognize what the parents are doing to them. Right? The parents do so much to the children, and yet the children think, this is their right. My parents have to do this to me. This is actually how the children think. But when they grow up and when they probably become parents, they realize it even more, is how much the parents have sacrificed for us. The amount of trouble that they've gone to raise us. And therefore, this feeling of gratitude starts arising. Right? The first thing that we can do is to at least recognize that somebody is doing something for us. Right? But as we are trying to do this activity of recognizing that somebody is doing something for us, this very simple act of gratitude or being grateful opens up so many things for us. When we are actually not thinking about anybody or not remembering what people are doing for us, we are in so much pride that nothing can enter our head. Nothing can penetrate us because we've put a big shield around us, and we've false ego means to think something that you're not. That's basically what it means. Ego means your identity. False ego means false identity. We think as ourselves as something that we are not. And from that position, how can we even listen to anything or think about anything or go in the right direction? To learn something, we have to take a position of humility. To actually recognize that somebody else knows something that we don't know. Only then will we hear from that person, right? If we already come to the table thinking I know everything, then how is it that we can actually learn anything? So when Krishna is saying Do this basic form of sacrifice. Be grateful to at least recognize that everything that we get comes from Him. What happens is it opens a big door for us in the sense that we start actually knowing about Krishna. When somebody tells you that everything that you've been getting is coming from such a person, our natural reaction would be to actually know who that person is, isn't it? He's done so much for me. If we actually start recognizing the things that Krishna does for us, we start to want to actually know about Krishna. Who is this person? Why is he doing everything for us? Who am I actually? All these questions start opening up. And just from the point of recognizing, we move to the plane of remembrance actually, where we're not just recognizing what Krishna is doing, but remembering every single moment that what we are getting is actually coming from Krishna or God. This is exactly what Krishna wants us to do, to remember about Him. This is Krishna consciousness, to be always conscious of God, to be always conscious of Krishna. This very small act of actually recognizing that Krishna is giving us everything can actually take us to this position of actually remembering about Krishna every single time. When we drink water, we can remember Krishna. When we go out and see the sun, we can remember Krishna. Just when we are recognizing that all these are given to us, this opens up a door where we can actually start remembering Krishna. And when we start remembering Krishna, we start developing a relationship with Krishna. This is what all of us are missing in this world, right? So much money we might have. Billionaires are still unhappy in this world because they don't have meaningful relationships in this world. All of us are just looking for relationships in this world. And we already have the most perfect relationship that all of us can have. All of us have already an eternal relationship with Krishna. And yet we've forgotten about it. So what this remembrance of Krishna opens up is reviving our lost relationship with Krishna. And this relationship with Krishna is not like any of these material relationships that we have that is born out of some transaction at least. There is some agreement that you'll do this for me, I'll do this for you. Okay, there is love definitely, but there is definitely some transaction. It's not selfless. It's not unconditional by any means. But this relationship that we have with Krishna is completely unconditional, and that is real love, right? When we start developing this this relationship of love with Krishna through the remembrance of Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes, we actually want to reciprocate to Krishna. This is how deep gratitude can actually be, right? The first level of gratitude that we can have for Krishna is actually recognizing that Krishna is doing everything for us. And the more we recognize, the more we want to remember what Krishna is doing for us in every single aspect of our life. And when we start remembering everything that Krishna is doing for us, we cannot help but reciprocate for everything that Krishna is doing for us. This is how advanced devotees operate. Everything that they do in this world, every single activity that they do is so that they can please Krishna, because they recognize that everything that they have is because of Krishna. Their mere sustenance is so that they can reciprocate to Krishna in whatever small way possible. But as we said, devotional service is not a one-way street, right? Devotional service is a relationship that we have. In this world, we don't have any masters that are grateful, right? We go to the office, we work for somebody, and then we work for our bosses. They're not very grateful for anything that we do for them, right? They are in a higher plane than us. We are working for our bosses. They give us tasks. We do it the most wonderful way that we can. And yet, if they don't need us, we are fired. And you get a moment's notice, basically. You don't even get any lead time. You're told and you have 2 hours to pack your bags and leave the office. These are the masters that we have in this world. And therefore, it is very hard for us to imagine somebody who will actually be grateful for anything that we do for them. Right? It is not a very unreasonable thinking on our part because of the experiences that we have in this world. And yet, the master who is actually providing us everything ideally speaking, although he has everything, this is what is the definition of God, is that he is Atma Rama. He is completely self-satisfied. He doesn't need anything external. He doesn't need actually our gratitude for him to be happy. And yet, such a person, when he recognizes that somebody is grateful to him, which is the actual proper thing to do. There is nothing extraordinary in what we're trying to do, because everything that we're doing is because Krishna is doing everything for us. We're reciprocating, merely reciprocating. We're not giving anything more than what Krishna is giving us. In fact, we're giving very, very tiny part of what Krishna is actually providing us with. It is like, it is explained that the Ganges is so humongous, right? How can we offer water to the Ganges? What we offer is we take the water from the Ganges and offer it back to the Ganges itself as a mark of gratitude, as a mark of respect. This is all we're doing. Krishna is giving us everything, and we're trying to use that in the service of Krishna, which is not something so extraordinary, right? And yet, Krishna doesn't think that way. This is the most amazing part of this entire equation, this entire relationship, is that Krishna feels so indebted, so grateful to any small thing that we do to him. In the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami mentions 64 prominent qualities that Krishna has. And one of those qualities is gratefulness or gratitude. Krishna has this quality of gratefulness or gratitude. And Krishna is grateful for the most tiniest of things that we might do. This is how incredible Krishna is, and he remembers it. And the example that Rupa Goswami gives for Krishna's gratitude is that there is this wonderful devotee of Krishna called Draupadi. She is in a very horrible condition actually. She is there in this big assembly of all these kings and princes, and then they're actually trying to disrobe her publicly in front of everybody. And her husbands are there. She in fact has 5 husbands. And none of them can do anything about it. There are really wise people in the assembly, and nobody wants to do anything about it. And she's holding on to her sari, and then people are trying to disrobe her, and eventually she is not able to do anything. And then raises her hand and calls the name of Krishna and says, "Oh hey Govinda, Pundarikaksha, Raksha Mam Sharanagati." She says, "Hey Govinda, Krishna, I'm surrendering to you. You do what you have to do." The minute Draupadi calls Krishna's name, what happens, of course, is Krishna gives her unlimited sari, that they're trying to disrobe her, and they just get tired. But Krishna's inner feeling of hearing Draupadi call out his name is that Draupadi has called my name, and I'm so indebted to her for calling out my name. And then Krishna is thinking, how can I repay the debt for her calling my name? Think about it. Krishna doesn't have to go through these emotions at all. And yet, these are his real emotions. This is how Krishna feels. That Krishna feels he is so indebted to Draupadi for just calling out his name once. Rupa Goswami also mentions another wonderful devotee called Jambavan. Before Krishna, he appeared as Lord Ramachandra. And there Jambavan was a very dear devotee of Lord Ramachandra and served him so much that Lord Ramachandra didn't know how to repay the debt for Jambavan. And therefore, when Krishna appeared to repay the debt of service that Jambavan had provided for Lord Ramachandra, Rupa Goswami says he married his daughter, Jambavati. This is Krishna. And most of all, what to speak of the topmost of all devotees, the Vrajavasis. Krishna basically absolutely does not know how to repay them. He directly tells them, I'm completely indebted to you for everything that you do for me. There is no way that I can repay you for anything that you do for me. Please take your own service as my token of appreciation. This is Krishna, the master that we are trying to serve. So therefore, this relationship of reciprocation is there. And when we have a little gratitude for Krishna, it completely opens this up so much that the Supreme Lord himself wants to be subservient to us. wants to serve because he doesn't know how else to repay the debt of gratitude that he has for his devotees, that he himself becomes subservient to his devotees. This is Krishna, right? In such an act of incredible uh, gratitude or indebtedness to his devotee, one such incredible devotee, Krishna takes a very dramatic incarnation. This is a small 5-year-old boy, and his father is the king of the entire universe. And he's not a great king. He's so terrifying that just by the mere raising of his eyebrows, the 14 worlds tremble. This is how terrifying his father is. This is a demon called Hiranyakashipu. And his boy Prahlad, he's asking his 5-year-old boy Prahlad, Prahlad, you're saying your God is everywhere, Vishnu is everywhere. Is he there in the pillar? And he points at a pillar in his assembly. And then Prahlad, in all his confidence on the Lord, says, yes, my father, he's everywhere, therefore he is there in the pillar too. And we don't have time to go into the backstory, but Krishna takes a wonderful, wonderful incarnation. Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam vyaptim chabhute shakileshu chatmana adrishyatatyad bhutarupamudvaham sthambe sabhayam na mrigam na manusham. Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam. To make the words of his devotee come true. The Bhagavatam says. He comes from the stamba, the pillar, na mrigam na manusham. He's neither an animal nor a man. He's a half man and a half animal. This incarnation of Nrsingadev comes about. And he destroys his father Hiranyakashipu, who's actually been trying to kill Prahlad in so many different ways. And then Prahlad Maharaj tries to pacify Nrsingadev by offering so many wonderful prayers. And actually at one point, Nrsingadev asks Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad, you ask anything that you want. I'll give you everything that you want. To that, Prahlad Maharaj says, Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kama bhikamam anuya prapatan prasangat kritvatmasat surashina bhagavan grihita soham katam nu vishije tava bhritya sevam. He says, my dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant Narada Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? This is the Supreme Lord himself who's right in front of him, standing right in front of him. And yet, he's saying, Oh Nrsingadev, I know I have to serve you, but I know about you only through my spiritual master. This was the verse that we were reading, right? Ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti mantyate. The general populace, Prahlad Maharaj says, is falling in a blind well full of snakes. This is what this attitude of I am the doer can take us to, right? And yet, Narada Muni, who was his teacher, spiritual master, was so compassionate on him that by his mercy, he was able to see the Lord face to face. And Prahlad Maharaj here is showing his gratitude to his spiritual master, although the Supreme Person is standing right in front of him and saying, how can I leave the service of my spiritual master? He actually told me about you. How can I leave his service? This is gratitude, right? So everything that we know or that we spoke about Krishna so far, at least for me, comes from Srila Prabhupada. For everybody here in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness comes from the founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Founder or foundation means founder means the foundation on which everything is standing. Right? It has to be so stable and strong. Everything that we have because Srila Prabhupada gave it to us. So how can we not be grateful to Srila Prabhupada? Right? The first thing is to actually recognize what we have from Srila Prabhupada. like we spoke of the 3 steps, then we remember what we have actually got from Srila Prabhupada. And through this remembrance of everything that Srila Prabhupada has given us, we cannot stop but reciprocating with Srila Prabhupada. Right? This is the process. And I was thinking about, we could be grateful to Prabhupada with so many things. Practically everything that we have is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So what can we not be grateful to Srila Prabhupada for? But for lack of time, I thought I'll pick a few things that we can talk about and then probably reflect among ourselves on the wonderful things that we have that we've received from Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prithivite yache adi nagradigram sarvata prachar hoibe moranam. This is the 16th century saint from Bengal, who is Krishna himself, who is the propagator of the Sankirtan movement by chanting the holy names of the Lord. And what he was doing was in the country of India. He spread the names of Krishna throughout the country of India, and he gave a prediction that these names of India, these names of the Lord will not just stay in the land of India. It'll go in every single town and village. Prithivete Achayadi Nagaradigram. Every town and village in this world will actually have Krishna's names being recited everywhere. And Srila Prabhupada brought these very names, holy names of the Lord, to every single town and village. You can go to any major city in this world and you will see the devotees of Lord Krishna singing and dancing to the holy names of the Lord. And when Prabhupada came here, he had only this. Right? In 1965, when he came to the United States, he knew nobody here. He actually had an acquaintance in India, Mr. Agarwal, whose son Gopal Agarwal was staying here in Butler, Pennsylvania. So they had to give him like a sponsorship to come. And Prabhupada had never met him, never known him. It was just somebody who had done this as a favor to his father actually. His father asked him to do it and he just did it. So Prabhupada practically knew nobody here and had no money when he came here. He had a little bit of money, but then it was in Indian rupees. It would not be useful here in the United States. But Prabhupada had such incredible conviction in the holy names of the Lord that all he did was sit under a tree in Tompkins Square Park in New York and chant the holy names of the Lord every day, every single day. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we get into the details, yeah, on a, not even on a passenger boat, right? This was a, huh? Oh yeah, that's what it was. This was a cargo ship that Prabhupada was traveling on. But the point I'm trying to make is the incredible conviction that Prabhupada had on the holy names of the Lord. Bibi Govind Maharaj says this wonderful story of how when he met one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, many years after actually Srila Prabhupada left, Bibi Govind Maharaj met this wonderful devotee called Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj. He was a very advanced devotee and he was Prabhupada's godbrother, meaning they both had the same spiritual masters, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was no less of an acharya himself. He was an incredible acharya, a great spiritual master. And yet, I actually wanted to read exactly. I could say it in my own words, but I wanted to read exactly what Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj spoke to Bibi Govind Maharaj. Maharaj recollects. Akinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj said to Bibi Govind Maharaj, I would like to tell you something. I said, this is Govind Maharaj. What is that? And he said, I am an old man and I've had a lot of experience in this world. From my experience, I can honestly tell you that there has never been a greater acharya than your spiritual master. Think about it. His own spiritual master was no less, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was a revolutionary spiritual master. And he was telling, I've never seen anybody greater than your own spiritual master, which was his godbrother, Srila Prabhupada. And when he said that, I became stunned because he was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then he looked up and he said There has never been an Acharya in history who has performed miracles like your spiritual master. And then he paused and he looked at me and he said, do you know why? I was so stunned I couldn't say anything. And he said, because in history, there was never a greater servant of Sri Krishna's holy name than your spiritual master. Because your spiritual master had so much absolute understanding of Krishna's holy name and so much absolute faith in Sri Krishna's holy name that he personally carried Sri Krishna's holy name through the length and breadth of the world. Therefore, he is the greatest Acharya who has ever existed. This is Srila Prabhupada. The conviction that he had in the holy names of the Lord. The complete understanding that he had in the holy names of the Lord. Narottam Das Thakur says, Golokera Prema Dana Hari Nama Sankirtana. These holy names of the Lord, the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Maha Mantra is not a product of this material world. Narottam Das Thakur says, this is the treasure of love from the spiritual world, Prema Dhan of Goloka, of the spiritual world, this Harinam. And Prabhupada took this and delivered it to every single town and village all across the world. We should be incredibly grateful just for this one act that Srila Prabhupada did, right? By coming all the way from India at a very old age, where retirement was, nobody would question his retirement. Actually, people would appreciate, oh, you're old, you're going to Vrindavan, this is the right thing to do. You've done everything in your life, and yet Prabhupada couldn't stay in Vrindavan. Because of why? Because of the gratitude that he had for his spiritual master. Because of the gratitude that he had for Krishna, that he wanted to do something for his spiritual master. He wanted to do something for Krishna. And also the compassion that he had for everybody in this world. He gave the holy names all around the world. And specifically for us in Dallas, Texas, we're really, really fortunate because Srila Prabhupada gave us Kalachandji. This is one of the few temples. Right now in the Hare Krishna movement, I think all world over we might have about 800 temples, probably even more. Day by day, we're just increasing the number of temples that we're building. But when Srila Prabhupada was here in this planet, he had opened about 108 temples. And the Dallas temple, Shri Radha Kalachandji temple, is one of them. And Kalachandji is no ordinary deity. Right? And I don't know of any other deity that Prabhupada installed that was actually not carved. Right? I think most deities, when Prabhupada wanted to open the temple, they would carve new deities. A few old ones were there? Yeah, but this is the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. When Srila Prabhupada was there in Jaipur, he recognized Kalachandji. And we have a wonderful description of how Kalachandji was installed in Dallas in Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita. And Satsvarup Maharaj gives such a wonderful description of how all of this happened. So I thought we could read a little bit from the Leelamrita. And some of the sentiments that actually Srila Prabhupada had for Dallas itself, Satsvarup Maharaj mentions in the Leelamrita. So this is the Leelamrita. The devotees in Dallas had purchased a large church facility and were forming the first ISKCON children's school known as Gurukula, which is this building, this entire property that we are currently in. Prabhupada, while traveling in India during 1971 and 72, had sent a series of letters to the Dallas teachers explaining the basic direction he wanted them to take for beginning a Krishna conscious primary school. This was very important for Srila Prabhupada to have a Krishna conscious primary school. And Prabhupada wanted to set this up in Dallas here. Of all places he could have chosen, he picked Dallas here. So Prabhupada was communicating with the teachers through letters. And Maharaj says, these letters had assured the Dallas devotees that they were doing the most important work for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. Think about it. Prabhupada had so many important things to do, but Prabhupada considered this one of the most important works, to actually have a school for the kids. Prabhupada said, these are not continuous passages, I've just picked lines from that section. Prabhupada said Dallas's weather reminded him of Calcutta, even though he felt uncomfortably hot. We've all seen Dallas, right? And Dallas summers are really hot. And yet it reminded Prabhupada of Calcutta, his own home, where he was born. This is how Prabhupada related to Dallas. Actually, in one place, I forget where, Prabhupada says Dallas feels like my home. I think in one of the morning walks or somewhere. I forget where I read it. So this was Prabhupada's relation with Dallas as a city too. Although it was uncomfortably hot, it was just like Calcutta for him. It was just like home. And then large marble deities of Radha and Krishna arrived in Dallas by trailer from New York. Prabhupada had specifically selected these deities for Dallas Gurukula while in India and ordered them to be shipped to the United States. The Krishna deity was magnificent. He was tall, bigger than most ISKCON deities, and his limbs and head were strikingly large. According to one story, the deity was several hundred years old and therefore carved according to an ancient tradition. Even though the devotees in Dallas were unprepared to install Radha Krishna deities, Prabhupada told them to get ready in 2 days for the installation, which he would personally. Prabhupada would personally install Radha Kalachandji for us. And Kalachandji was no ordinary deity like we read, right? He was a very old deity who was carved in a very ancient tradition, and Prabhupada recognized this and shipped Kalachandji to Dallas. So this was after they had come. Prabhupada stood and walked into the room where Janava was examining the repainted deity. For why it was repainted, you have to read the Lilamrita. I'm going to leave it up to you. Calmly he stood before Radha and Krishna, singing to himself. Yes, he said, now it's all right. The devotees actually had to repaint the deities overnight. Prabhupada was very upset. But then when he had come in and then actually seen how they had repainted, he was happy with it. Later that morning in the temple room, Prabhupada sat on his Vyasasana and installed Radha and Krishna, reciting the prayers from the Brahma Samhita. He then offered the first arati to the deities who had been hastily dressed and placed on an almost bare altar. Prabhupada seemed pleased, however, and later went up to his room and wrote on a piece of paper, Radha Kalachandji, the deity of Dallas, September 12th, 1972, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Kalachandji, he said, meant black moon. And there we had Kalachandji because of Srila Prabhupada. Eternally grateful to Srila Prabhupada for bringing us Kalachandji. There is no deity like Kalachandji in the entire world. I'm not being biased being here, but I've seen so many deities and probably there are other devotees who might have seen so many deities. I remember when I came to Dallas for the first time, I was in Salt Lake City, and then my company moved to Dallas and I had to move, and they brought us for a look-see trip to show us all around Dallas. And the first place that they took us in Dallas was where JFK was assassinated. You have an X mark on the road and a small memorial on the side. I mean, we're seeing Dallas and seeing everything. I mean, practically, like nothing was of great interest. And Dallas as a city is like that. It doesn't have incredible natural beauty. It's just a flat plain. But then I finally, before my flight that weekend, I was able to come to the temple, to the Sunday feast. And the entire experience of the look-see trip really didn't convince me to come to Dallas. It's like, I was there in Utah. It's really beautiful. It's surrounded by mountains and valleys and lakes and lots of nice hikes. It's like, I really don't know if I want to move to Dallas, I had wonderful friends in Utah. But then I remember I sat back in that corner. Temple was packed. And from there I saw Kalachandji. And somehow this beaming smile of Kalachandji was so pacifying to me. It was like Kalachandji saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. All I had to do was just see Kalachandji's face. And then the decision was made for me. Like I'm moving to Dallas, It has nothing, but it has Kalachandji. So that's enough for me, This is Kalachandji, and Kalachandji was brought to us by Srila Prabhupada. Right? So we're very eternally grateful to Srila Prabhupada for it. And so many things, like the association of devotees that we have, right? When I came to Dallas, I knew nobody, practically speaking, but everybody was so welcoming, so inclusive in how they had basically reciprocated with me as if they had known me for such a long time. And the basis of all these relationships is because Srila Prabhupada had given this, right? The basis of all the relationships that we have in any town that we go. I remember when I was a student, I had to go to Amsterdam for a conference, and we said, let's go for a Euro trip. But every single major city that we went, we had a temple and we had devotees who would help us. Students, we had practically no money. They would allow us to stay in the temple, feed us, give us nice prasadam. Everything that we have, that we take for granted, is because Srila Prabhupada gave it to us. Right? And many times we forget it. The basis of all our relationships starts with Prabhupada. It's based on Prabhupada that all of us relate with each other. And yet, as we develop our own personal relationships, Srila Prabhupada somewhere goes in the back. The conversations, Prabhupada doesn't have a place in our conversations or our lives or our relationship itself sometimes. So this association of devotees that we have, everything, the Bhagavad Gita, the books that we have, the Srimad Bhagavatam that we have, Prabhupada's life's work, his magnum opus, 18,000 verses. He translated it, waking up midnight for us. Every single day, Prabhupada, right here in Prabhupada's quarters, Prabhupada would have translated the Srimad Bhagavatam for us. Think about it. Some pages of Bhagavatam that we read are being translated here, were translated here. And the Bhagavatam is none other than Krishna himself, right? Prabhupada gave us Krishna in the form of holy names, and Prabhupada gave us Krishna in the form of his literature, his literary incarnation, Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam says, Krishne swadhamo pagate dharma jnana adibissaha kalau nashta drishamesha puranarko dunodita. That Krishna has left the planet now, right? And along with him, dharma and jnana, religious principles and knowledge have also left. So what is there that we can take shelter of when Krishna is not present in this planet? The sages are asking. That this Purana, this Bhagavata Purana has arisen like the sun, as brilliant as the sun. And this is the literary incarnation of Krishna himself. And Srila Prabhupada gave us access to this specific book. The Bhagavad Gita that we read, the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we read, we take it for granted. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur, few hundred years back, right? Not even a few hundred years back, like in 850 years or even 100 years back, the Chaitanya Charitamrita was not available in Bengal. He was searching for so many years to find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita so that he can translate it. And yet we have it in our phones now. We have so many books printed that we take it for granted that these books are there for us. But these were there as a result of this incredible endeavor that Srila Prabhupada had put in. And of course, all the devotees, the production of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Leelamrita itself is another wonderful story of how Prabhupada had given a deadline of 2 months to publish all the 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And yet we take it for granted. The names of the Lord himself, and the holy places. Think about it. Vrindavan. Prabhupada showed us Vrindavan and brought Vrindavan everywhere all around the world. When Vidura comes to the assembly of Yudhishthir Maharaj, he says, you are the personification of holy places, he says. Because you carry the Lord within the heart, and therefore any place that you go is a holy place, he says. This was Srila Prabhupada. He was in Vrindavan, the best of all holy places. And yet he carried Vrindavan in his heart and distributed Vrindavan all around the world. Right? And these are the 5 most potent things that Mahaprabhu says, Rupa Goswami says, that can develop or flourish devotional service in us. The names of the Lord, the deity of the Lord, the devotees, the association of devotees, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the holy places, right? And the holy places. Prabhupada gave us everything that we need to progress in our spiritual life. And yet, you know what Prabhupada's attitude was? Just like how Krishna was so indebted or is so indebted to any little thing that we do. Prabhupada doesn't think that I gave you everything, therefore you have to do things for me. This was not what Prabhupada's attitude was. I would like to play a small clip. Let's see, we can hear this. Of Prabhupada speaking on the disappearance day of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in Los Angeles in 1973. This is just like a 1-2 minute clip.
Who likes to come to this movement to take up this very seriously. And I was dreaming that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is calling me. Please come out with me. So I was sometimes horrified. Oh, what is this? I have to give up my family life. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is calling me. I have to take sannyas. Oh, I was horrified. But I saw several times calling me. So anyway, it is by His grace I was forced to give up my family life and so-called business life. And He brought me somewhere or other in preaching His gospel. So, this is a memorable day. What He deserved. I am trying little bit, and you are all helping me. So I have to thank you more. You are actually representative of my Guru Maharaj. Because you are helping me in executing the order of my Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
This was Srila Prabhupada's attitude. All the people that were helping Srila Prabhupada were barely in their teens, somebody in their early 20s. And yet, Prabhupada was actually breaking down, thinking about the things that they had done for him. And he was grateful in both ways, right? He was grateful for his spiritual master who had actually pulled him out of his family life. And at the same time, so grateful to his disciples. It is the duty of the disciple to serve the spiritual master. And yet Srila Prabhupada didn't take it for granted. He was so grateful to his disciples and was thanking him. And every single time, Prabhupada would use this word, right? Thank you very much. This is the sign of gratitude, that you know what is being done and are thanking that person for what they're doing. Which was the right. Just like Krishna, it's not necessary for him to reciprocate. Similarly, the spiritual master is actually providing so much for us. There is no reason for Srila Prabhupada to feel grateful. And yet, this is the nature of pure devotees of the Lord. They're grateful for any small thing that we can actually do for them or Krishna. So, how can we reciprocate to Srila Prabhupada? There is no way we can repay Srila Prabhupada for everything that he has done for us. And yet, in our small ways, we can try to give Krishna to others. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. And give Krishna in ways that Srila Prabhupada actually gave Krishna to everybody. Right? He actually saw them for where they were and tried to raise them from where they were. Met devotees or met people where they were in their lives. This famous story of where Shyam Sundar Prabhu was carving Jagannath had a cigarette box on top of, I forget, Jagannath, or I don't know which deity. Subhadra's deity. And Prabhupada came in, and think about what Prabhupada would have thought of. This pure devotee of the Lord. He knows this is Krishna himself. He didn't say anything. He just knocked the box with a cane and then said, go wash your hands. Don't do this. And then we know how incredible Shyam Sundar Prabhu served Srila Prabhupada, right? So this is something that we can do for Srila Prabhupada, is meet people where they are and try to give Krishna to them. Just like devotees did for us when we were new to Krishna consciousness, right? They met us where we were very patient with us and gave Krishna to us. So with this I'll stop. I got a time out from Rasraj Prabhu. So if there are any questions or comments or thoughts or reflections, yes, Sucharya. Can we pass a mic? Rasraj Prabhu, do you have a mic in your hand? Actually, you can use this mic. So Sucharya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I was there in Detroit, Michigan when Radhakala Chanji arrived at the temple along with Radha Govinda and Radha Kunja Bihari, and the temple president opened the boxes. They were in big crates, large crates, and he opened the boxes and he took all the straw out, and then he started to move around the different deities. He looked at the face of each deity and their lotus feet. He started to move them around, and he took Radharani from Detroit and moved her beside Kalachandji. And so the devotees saw him doing this. He was moving the deities all around. And and then he moved Kalachandji's Radharani to Kunja Bihari. So the devotees were really upset because they thought, oh, he's changed the deity matching. And they wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada wrote back and said, you may think Govardhan has done this, but actually Krishna was engaging in transcendental wife swapping.
And we're glad that he swapped Radharani for us. This is the Radhanath Maharaj says this is the most beautiful Radharani he's ever seen, and I concur. I agree. If there are no questions or comments, I have one last request. We have a book table outside. I mean, if you want to know about Srila Prabhupada more, there is this book called Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, which is the biography of Srila Prabhupada. It's a wonderful book to read. It's a very nicely written by Satsurup Maharaj. I would request you to pick a copy of that book on the hallway if you already don't have one. Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for attending so far. So,